I can't have you back out, but I don't have to get paid immediately. The only thing is that, whether it breaks down and becomes worthless or not, you still have to pay. Everything is fine. All right. You're taking it then? Accepting it. 110. 110. Well done. Kevin Beets paid Parker Schnabel $110,000 for a rock truck that was 21 years old. It seems crazy. A novice miner was purchasing old equipment in front of the world, but something much more significant was taking place in the background. Parker sold more than just gear. He was selling his sole means of escape from a rapidly approaching financial catastrophe. During a season when we have a lot of bills, we will fall short on the gold front. What steps would you like to take to try to resolve the issue? We should strive to open up something different, in my opinion. In a tale you were never supposed to see, we're going to expose the secret crisis that pushed Klondike's golden boy into a predicament, and how his competitor's son Kevin turned out to be the unexpected hero. In the harsh Yukon wilderness, one bad day from broke. It all comes down to perception. Additionally, Parker Schnabel has always been seen as having unstoppable success. We saw the fleet of enormous yellow vehicles, the enormous staff, and the piles of gold. It appears to be an unstoppable money-printing machine. The problem with machines, however, is this. They break down and are quite expensive to fix. It may surprise you to learn that the larger the operation, the more vulnerable it may be. This thing is currently pouring everywhere and is most likely 20% above capacity. You simply need to exercise patience. You have to overcome it. Additionally, I don't think Parker has a lot of patience. Parker manages a massive mining operation with enormous overhead expenses. We're talking about maintenance expenses that easily reach the millions each season, a wage for dozens of seasoned miners, and a daily fuel expenditure that could purchase a new car. Gold bars are not suitable for such a large operation. Its cash flow is cold and hard. Get this now. Just before the season got underway, sources close to the operations alluded to a significant, unanticipated catastrophe. A crucial piece of equipment that was far larger and more costly than a basic rock truck had failed catastrophically. Imagine the engine of his main dozer, Big Red, giving up the ghost, or the main conveyor system of a wash plant completely collapsing. That kind of repair is not a few $1,000s. The bill has to be paid right now and might total hundreds of thousands of dollars. This type of issue has the potential to stop the entire process. The payments keep rolling in, but there is no gold if there is no moving dirt. Parker reportedly had a severe liquidity difficulty, despite having millions of dollars in gold. Although he possessed assets, he lacked readily available funds. Although it's a well-known business issue, displaying weakness in the competitive mining industry is a recipe for trouble. He required a large cash infusion, and he needed it without warning his rivals or crew that the Monarch could be having problems. When you think about it, it's humorous. We didn't bargain for as much rubbish as you have in here. Oh, since I've encountered around 8 feet of that large, gritty rock in some places down here, I'm willing to wager that there is at least 5 feet of waste in here. Correct. Yes. I have no idea how long it will take you. You have a large amount of gravel. Just a few miles away, a new player was reportedly making his own desperate plays at the same moment that Parker was frantically looking for money. The renowned Viking miner Tony Beets' son, Kevin Beets, was emerging from his father's shadow to launch his own mine. His beginning, however, was far from spectacular. He was equipped with outdated, unreliable, and frequently breaking down hand-me-down equipment from Tony machines. His vision of a seamless operation was becoming a nightmare of broken hoses and malfunctioning diff locks. Already, one of his rock trucks, a vital component for transporting pay dirt, was turning out to be a piece of junk. Kevin found himself stranded. The frequent delays were too costly for him. He had to have a dependable truck quickly. He was unaware that Parker's secret dilemma was going to collide with his own. It was out of necessity that Kevin started looking for a working rock truck. There were rumors that Parker's need to sell one was the result of sheer desperation. He was the only one who was unaware of the stakes in the negotiation he was about to enter. A great quantity of despair. Parker believed that Kevin Beets was merely looking for a used rock truck when he pulled up to his claim. He saw himself as the one in a difficult situation, a beginner attempting to negotiate a reasonable price with the area's most successful miner. However, that relationship was completely reversed in reality. Parker reportedly had his sights set on selling a particular truck, a 21-year-old Volvo A40, which was a reliable vehicle in its day, but was now old enough to purchase alcohol legally. Parker had a yard full of equipment. Parker made a hard price request, $110,000. No negotiating, no haggling. "I don't really care if you buy it or not," he remarked. At first glance, that seems like typical Parker conceit. You would expect a man who knows he has what you need to make such a power move. What if, however, it wasn't arrogance? What if it was confidence masquerading as desperation? Consider it. You cannot afford to haggle if you are in dire need of a certain sum of money. $15,000 is insufficient. $100,000 was off the table. He might have needed precisely $110,000 to pay for that disastrous repair expense that was kept under wraps. 10, 110, and 100. Proceed to 105. I don't bargain. Purchase it or not. I don't give a damn. There was nothing salesy about his take-it-or-leave-it attitude. It was a mirror of his own terrible circumstances. His back was firmly against the wall, leaving him with no room to move. Naturally, none of this was visible to Kevin. He just witnessed a man haggling over an ancient iron object. Let's dissect that figure. It's high for a 21-year-old vehicle to cost $110,000. If you're prepared to wait and ship them, you can find newer ones for not much more money. Kevin, however, had no time. Every hour of downtime was costing his operation money. Parker was aware of this. Kevin believed that Parker was taking advantage of his need for a truck, but in reality, Parker was relying on it to address a much more significant issue. It has a particular brilliance about it, highlighting someone else's weakness while concealing your own. Kevin inspected the truck. It appeared to be fine. The engine was spotless. Even though the main elements appeared to be reliable, it was still a risk. He was going to write a check for a huge portion of his initial investment. This was a make-or-break investment for Kevin. It was purportedly the lifeline Parker had been hoping for. Only one of them understood why the tension in that moment was so intense. Even asking to pay later in the season, Kevin attempted to flout the idea of a payment plan. Parker's answer was instructive. He consented, but only with one restriction. "I cannot have you withdraw. Whether it breaks down and becomes worthless or not, you still have to pay." The vendor wasn't merely covering his bases. To be able to rely on that money as though it were already in his bank account, a man needed to lock it in. As much as he wanted the money, he needed the commitment. The handshake was on the horizon, but was Kevin investing in his competitors or guaranteeing his own future? Two fates and a handshake. Take it, in 2 words. The transaction was completed. Kevin Beets promised to give $110,000 to Parker Schnabel. Kevin felt a tremendous burden of risk suddenly fall on him. He now had an ancient rock truck and a mountain of debt between them. The outcome of his entire season could be determined by that one buy. He could reach the gold and settle Parker's debt if the truck operated smoothly. His entire business could be ruined before it even got started if it turned out to be a lemon. For a new mine boss, it was a huge gamble. Feeling the weight of his choice, he left in the hopes that the truck would work out. His immediate issue had been resolved, but at a very expensive price. "It's a bit more than I had hoped to pay, but it's what we have, and it's difficult to bargain from the stance that we truly need something." Parker Schnabel was there on the other side of that handshake. Parker probably felt a tremendous feeling of relief, but Kevin felt the weight of the bargain. If the stories are accurate, the $110,000 promise was the key that released him from his own financial captivity. He needed the money to repair his malfunctioning operation and resume his own season. Nobody was aware of how near the edge he had been. He did his part flawlessly. He seemed calm, self-assured, and perhaps somewhat unconcerned. He resolved his issue, sold the truck, and upheld his reputation as the unchallenged Klondike King. It was a brilliant performance that concealed a desperate reality behind the facade of routine business. You had to wonder whether he felt guilty at all for Kevin taking such a risk. This one transaction tells us a lot about how cruel the gold mining industry is. Digging isn't the only thing involved. Every dollar matters in this high-stakes chess battle where cash flow is king. Parker supposedly turned a moment of great vulnerability into a strategic victory by taking advantage of Kevin's desperation and his notoriety. Not only did he sell a truck, but he might have saved his kingdom in the process. And he did it with such ease that Kevin, the person who saved him, left believing that he was the one who had taken the significant risk. Although it's a crazy idea, it illustrates the type of mind games that take place behind the scenes, far from the cameras. Kevin's cut was tackled with a new truck right away, and for the time being, it was effective. It gave him a chance to get down to the pay layer by enabling him to finally begin moving dirt effectively. Kevin saw the vehicle as a symbol of hope and an opportunity to achieve his goal of 1,000 ounces. Parker saw that same truck as a crisis avoided, a bullet avoided. One corroding bit of yellow iron bound two miners with rather different fates together, in a transaction in which the real victor wasn't always the one who took home the gold. Do you believe Parker has some leeway in terms of pricing? At the moment, he has a lot of bargaining power. Yes, he is aware of it. The narrative was far from finished, but the truck was on the road. When the truth begins to emerge, what happens? An easy transaction or a covert rescue? This is when we need to take a step back and take a moment to reflect. Could a single malfunctioning machine truly bring Parker Schnabel, a man who consistently earns millions of dollars in gold, to the verge of collapse? Was he truly so desperate for money that he had to rely on selling a 20-year-old truck to the kid of his rival? On the one hand, it nearly seems unreal. These guys are portrayed in the show as giants who are impervious to the common financial issues that ordinary people face. Instead of using grams to weigh gold, they use pounds. However, you also need to take into account the opposing viewpoint. What do we not see? These mines are extremely expensive to operate. Imagine a staff of 15 to 20 individuals who all make top dollar for 6 months. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars in payroll. For one of those enormous rock trucks, a single tire can cost more than $5,000. A blown engine might easily cost you $50,000 or $100,000. These are not merely profit-driven miners. They are constantly competing with their own costs. A multi-million-dollar operation can quickly become a money hole due to a series of unfavorable events, a significant malfunction, a patch of bad luck, or an increase in fuel prices. Therefore, it is not only probable but also completely conceivable that Parker could have a cash flow issue. The problem is that we're watching a TV program. For maximum drama, it is altered. Maybe Parker was simply being Parker when he said, "I don't haggle." Perhaps it was just a straightforward business transaction between two men in need of one another. Parker had a truck to sell, and Kevin needed a truck he could rely on more than his dad's old junk. It might be that easy. However, things are rarely so easy in the Yukon. There are a lot of demands, and one choice can have repercussions for a whole season. Whether it was a straightforward transaction or a last-ditch rescue, this deal demonstrates the Razor's advantage over these miners. Although the entire tale and the precise amount in Parker's bank account on that particular day may never be known, seeing the matter from this perspective alters your perception of the program. You become aware of the unsaid forces influencing each choice. You understand that there are most likely a dozen restless nights spent thinking about a balance sheet for every ounce of gold they celebrate on TV. Finding gold is only one aspect of the true narrative of the gold rush. The goal is to live long enough to accomplish it. Was Kevin Beets the next man in line to receive a bad deal from Parker, or was he an unlikely hero? Post your theory in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Goldfields hidden stories.